Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and France has officially essentially declared World War III by sending troops to Ukraine, which is something that we reported on a couple months ago that they were planning to do as a leak came out, and they claimed that this wasn't the case. Of course, we've seen similar things from Germany where they have leaked out certain documents that say that they're going to invade and go into Russia eventually. And so, if these things are all proving to be true now, we should be really questioning that next step. But this out of Russian market, it says France sends combat troops to Ukraine battlefront. He says, and so it begins. We have this out of InfoWars. France sends troops to Ukraine front lines. 100 of 1,500 foreign legion troops are now in Ukraine, and they will serve as direct artillery surveillance experts around Slavyansk. So this is a major escalation in what's already a false flag war. Yeah, France declaring World War III. That's worked out great the last two times. They are not alone in this. There's multiple other countries getting involved in this, and it can only go one way, and all by design to bring us into the Great Reset. French rulers' insane idea could ignite World War III. Well, the United States is not left out of this at all in any which way. The UK, Germany, much of Europe. And with this, of course, you branch in Israel and Palestine and all this kind of stuff. My goodness, we are witnessing the control collapse of the Western Empire in favor of the East, and they need an excuse to do so to get us all in those 15-minute city, prison camps. So we're going to get into this and much more today, my friends. Before we do, I urge people seriously go check those links below. This is very important in the face of all this. Heavensharvest.com for long-term storable foods that are non-GMO. There's organic kits, heirloom seeds, water filtration and storage, and books on how to get started. Use code WAM, W-A-M, and you get 5% off as well as free shipping in the United States. This is incredibly important to face off against the Great Reset. This could save you and your family's life. They need to have a war to destroy the food supply, the grid, the housing market, so you will own nothing, as they say, to destroy the economy, to move into the new world reserve currency system and completely switch up the power structure. That puts you in bread lines asking for ration food on a social credit or carbon credit score attached to your bank account. And they will be giving you bug food. They'll be giving you mod RNA food. This is a way to survive this and the Great Reset. So please check that link again. That's code WAM, W-A-M, at heavensharvest.com. And of course, if anyone wants to help support us, we have our gogetfunding.com campaigns. We literally cannot survive without you guys. So thank you so much to those who've helped support us over the last while. We have Patreon and Subscribestar, as well as Bitcoin addresses and a Cointree link, all linked in the description. The Cointree link has a bunch of different cryptocurrencies that you could donate in, if you please, including privacy coins. So we appreciate any help we can get. We literally could not survive without you. So anyway, let's get into this. So France sends combat troops to Ukraine battlefront. A headline I did not want to have to read today, but nonetheless, we all saw it coming. And as the article goes into, it says France has officially deployed 100 soldiers of the Foreign Legion to the front lines in Ukraine, where they will offer support to the Ukrainian 54th Independent Mechanized Brigade. Although the initial deployment is just 100 artillery and surveillance experts, around 1,500 French soldiers from the Legion are scheduled to be deployed in Ukraine. By the way, this means war with Russia. This means Europe is at war with Russia. I don't know how people don't take this more seriously. Now, of course, again, both sides are in on it. It's all part of an agenda to bring in the Great Reset. But nonetheless, the magnitude of this, are people just so normalized that this isn't shocking to them? I mean, seriously, this is far further than the Cold War went. That's for sure. President Macron has been repeatedly rebuffed in his calls for NATO countries to send troops to Ukraine. He has stated publicly that nothing should be excluded as a potential response by Ukraine's NATO allies. The official U.S. position is still that it opposes sending troops to Ukraine other than in an advisory role, but they're already doing that. It's already by proxy. Remember, they're the ones that committed the Maidan massacre alongside Israel and, of course, the UK back in 2014, which led to the coup in Ukraine. This is a long time in the making, and Macron has previously said off the record that he wanted to go to Ukraine and send troops and wanted to fight against Russia. Of course, that statement was leaked. He denied it. Well, now it's clear that that is the case, that it is happening. And of course, we have the UK vows to arm Ukraine for as long as it takes, commits $3.7 billion annually. Now, this is absolutely insane. And it's from British Foreign Secretary and former Prime Minister and pig fucker David Cameron, who is promising this $3.74 billion annually as people are starving on the streets and crime is taking over the UK. Imagine that. It's called the control collapse of your own civilization, as Orwell puts it. In order to collapse a civilization, first you have to demoralize the people. And of course, a country like the UK and a country like the United States and Canada, for example, they're not going to be destroyed by a foreign enemy. They will be destroyed from within. That is what they are doing. They're destroying it from within. Germany has been a big part of this. German army prepares plan to ready U.S. troops to fight on NATO's eastern front. Now, we have been reporting for a long time regarding Germany and Russia. Remember, back in 2015, Merkel called for an EU army where Germany would be the head of it, and they did develop much of it, by the way. And in order to put Germany on NATO's, and with alongside NATO on Russia's border. And then they put up the NATO shield. And Germany has been calling for a war with Russia for a long time. Now, it wouldn't be the first time they went to war with Russia, obviously. Now, this is obviously insane, but now we are moving into this next front. And, remember at the beginning of 2020 or 2024, I should say, I'm mixing up my crises here. I remember saying in my prediction video that there will be false flags in Europe this year, leading into a World War III scenario. It's all by design. All these countries are propped up by the same entities in the first place anyway. Same intelligence communities, Mossad, CIA, MI6, etc. Zero Hedge says, Razor's Edge PM Orban calls for Europeans to vote for pro-peace parties in June EU elections. He's basically saying, hey, there's a gun to our head. We're being forced to give money to Ukraine. We have no a way to get out of it. We're stuck in the European Union. And now, I just found out a year ago, Croatia joined the EU too. Like, they're still taking over to such a great extent, even though so many people are sick of it. They're being bankrupted by it. They're being bankrupted by the trade deals that are being Shanghaiing these countries into debt and servitude to this union, which is a globalist union. And on top of that, forcing a lot of countries' hands to all go on the same path, even though the citizens of those countries don't want those paths, the paths that they're going down. RT says Zelensky wants 10 more years of U.S. funding. The Ukrainian leader has said he is working on getting a long-term assistance package from Washington. I mean, talk about traitorous. The U.S. government is the epitome of treason, but not against some national flag, but against its own people. They're committing treason against their own people because they themselves are a foreign entity, the state. Trump develops detailed plan on achieving Ukraine peace, says the Telegraph. Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. The issue is stop putting military on Russia's border, agree to the terms, drop out, also not be involved in other countries in the world, not be mass murdering children. And by the way, this is all pointless to even say because all of this goes back to the United States and Israel and, of course, the UK in the first place. Remember, Russia was propped up, especially with the help of World War I, by the U.S. and Britain in World War I, leading to the October Revolution in October of 1917, which led to the Communist Uprising, which was something that the Rockefellers were heavily involved in from the beginning in order to eventually bring in a global technocracy, which is based in Marxist ideals utilizing corporations, ironically enough. And so that led to what we saw there. Of course, we could say the same thing about World War II. Russia was propped up. Israel was propped up in World War I and World War II. The United Nations, first League of Nations and United Nations, World War I, World War II. Vietnam was propped up in the 1930s by FDR, armed and funded, while Ho Chi Minh was in Washington. The French soldiers were killed in Vietnam, leading to the Vietnam War later on, which the U.S. fought against their own weapons. Of course, 1953 military coup in Iran led to the U.S. propping up Iran. And people say, yeah, but of course, the Ayatollahs strike back at the CIA. Who armed them, do you think? Of course, it is a PSYOP, and it's a circle that is being created for now, which we see Iran and the U.S. potentially going to war with each other, as well as Israel and all these others. Again, all these things propped up by these governments in the first place. Of course, Iraq's Ba'athist Party, which then again they fight against their own weapons. We can go into looking at Ukraine 2014, the Maidan massacre again, Russia, Ukraine, Iraq, Iran, Israel. Hamas was armed and funded by Israel as well. China in the 1970s by the US through economic alliances, Taiwan as well. All under the guise of creating, unity with the world. But what it really did was create global conflict later down the line while creating an economic barrier, which leads to a new world economic order. And of course, you can't forget, Mujahideen, Taliban, Al Qaeda, ISIS, Muslim Brotherhood, all these other things created by the US in the first place. So, again, this is just a circular system of death and destruction that the United States government and Israel and these other countries like the UK and MI6, CIA, Mossad are creating for themselves in order to create perpetual war, which creates an excuse to bring in a new world order, which is the Great Reset, which is they need order out of chaos to bring in this new system, which is a shift from the West to the East, both economically and culturally, as immigrants flood cities thanks to Israel and other countries, the United States and many other countries throughout Europe, in order to destabilize culture, demoralize their people. They're also weakening people with stupid leaders like Joe Biden, Trudeau, and Macron, and people like that. And it shifts people away from morale into utter dread 24/7, which leads to that demoralization I speak of, which weakens culture significantly, which helps collapse civilization, collapse the structure of civilization, and force us into that reset, where then we have a new CBDC replacing the dollar and helps the food system because they just collapse the supply chain with war and collapse a grid with war and collapse the housing market with war. And of course, the lending processes at banks, as the banks collapse, they move into the new world reserve currency system, BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, now Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Ethiopia, many other countries. And you have a CBDC, which is backed by gold, but you never get to hold the gold. They create as much IOUs as they want. And then you are stuck in 15-minute cities on social credit and carbon credit scores, which are already bringing out across the board just in time for all these crises to happen. You think that is by accident? Absolutely not. This war is a false flag. Both sides are on the same page. They have been working with each other to commit suicide for the West for a long time. Don't forget that. This isn't, well, Russia good, Ukraine bad, or Ukraine good, Russia bad. It's nothing to do with this. It is all about structurally destabilizing civilization to bring us into this reset. This is why I'm so pissed about mainstream media and mainstream alternative medias playing sides with this. Well, it's Russia that's good. No, it's Ukraine that's good. Neither are good. They're both working to subvert the complex of the world, which is already bad, and move into an even worse technocratic hell on earth when 15-minute cities arrive and you're all in prison cities eating food rations because you didn't get prepared. So it's all one big false flag. And it's government utilizing you as pawns to sacrifice for the king and the queen. A bunch of cattle running off the cliff, my friends. We need to call this out. We need to reject the system. We need to withdraw from the system. It's the only way we survive this insanity. This isn't about fear. This is about building a road around the Tower of Babel as they're still building it so that you don't end up in the Tower of Babel.